Now entering the squared circle pit is Every Time I Die guitarist and also professional wrestler, one half of the Pythons tag team. It's Andy Williams. Did I get that? Is it the tag team called Pythons? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's like a tag team. It's been a tag team since we were like 12 years old. So yeah,
Nice.
through the backyards of North Tonawanda, New York, and numerous other areas, and then it actually turned into an actual thing. Just way later, we took 20 years off, and then decided to start when we were like in our late 30s again.
Well, I like it. That's the time to do it.
Yeah, perfect time. Right when your body is in peak physical shape.
Well, I will say I follow you on Instagram, and your body, I would say, is in peak physical shape right now. You've really got it together. What was the impetus? You know, we're going to talk about how you got into wrestling in a little bit, but I'm just curious. Like in the last few years, what was the impetus to finally, like, get like huge and start trying to take wrestling a little more seriously?
I think it's really funny, man. I went on a date last night, and like the girl kind of like asked me the same question. It was like a girl that I've known for a couple of years in Buffalo, and she's like, "You kind of went from like a big guy to like being a big guy that's like now in shape." And like, what was the thing? And it literally like a couple of years ago, I think it was like 2010 or something like that. I like just had this. I literally just gave up. I was just like, all right, well, my body feels like shit. Like touring kills me. My knees aren't getting any better. My ankles aren't getting any better. My hips aren't getting any better. Like, like sleeping in a van. And it was just like, well, I'm just that guy. And I literally like cashed out. I was like, I found like, like when you see like an uncle that just like goes and buys like the bulkiest, biggest like uncle shoe. And it's just like for comfort. Like he doesn't care what it looks like. It's big and white. I like turned into that. I was like, oh, well, these shoes are super comfortable. My feet don't hurt. And it was just like, all right, that's it. I'm a guitar player in a band, and I've like messed my body up so much from like headbanging and just jumping off stage, and like, I would like Every Time I Die and Dillinger are like the closest things to like ECW wrestling in the music scene, where like it's just we're nonstop moving, going in the crowd, blah blah. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm that guy. I'm Jack Victory now. Like that's basically like Every Time I Die is gonna come on stage. They're just gonna wheel me out there. I'll take one big bump and then like wheel me back out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just like that. And then it was literally CM Punk. Like he quit the WWE, and then no one really knew what he was doing. And then he was like, "Well, fuck it, I'm gonna be a UFC fighter." And it was like, if you're like I guess if you're like a straight edge dude in a band, Punk always would reach out to you. Like always would find a way to like reach out to you, regardless if he liked your band or not. He would like reach out to you and just be like, "Hey, check it out! Like SmackDown's in town tonight, and you're playing. If you guys want to come, I'll put you guys on the list or whatever." And just a couple of years ago, he like reached his hand out, and like we kind of like would talk via like email and text message, and like we never met like face to face. It was just like whatever. And like in that time when he like retired, we like met, and then he announced that he was gonna do the UFC thing, and it was just some random thing where I was like, man, that's like super inspirational that this dude is like close to my age, and instead of like just cashing it in and saying like, well, fuck it, he's now going to get punched and he's getting kicked and fucking subbed for real. You know what I mean? And it's not like he's doing it at like a low level. He's doing it at the highest level possible. And it's lame to say, but it was like, that was like so inspirational. I was just like, holy shit, like, fuck this, man. I've always wanted to wrestle. And like, if this dude can do it at that age, and he's going to try to step up, then I'm going to step up. And I've always wanted to wrestle. So like, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? When I was 19, I went to wrestling school, but then I blew my knee out and started a band, and I've been doing the band ever since. So like, it just never was a thing. And then it was just kind of like a bucket list thing. Like, I'm Morgan Freeman, and I'm trying to get this bucket list in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, fuck this, man. I'm not laying back. And then I literally went. I saw doctors, got some shit corrected, and then and it was nothing like surgery wise. It was just basically like, hey, like you need to fucking eat right. You need to just take your body more seriously. Like you have like these little injuries everywhere, and just doing these stretches or applying a different type of workout will correct this stuff. And like that's all I did. And like it literally went from like literally working out like twice a week to like working out 5-6 times a week. And like I'm the guy that will like get up at like, if we have to get in the van and drive to the show at 9:00, I'm up at 5 and I get to a gym, do my thing, get back, drive to the show, get to the show, do my thing, and then like go try to sleep as fast as I possibly can to try to get it in the next day. Or like there's times where like I'm trying to think where we played the Palladium not that long ago. Like not Metal Fest, I can't remember what we played, but we played downstairs and the show was like big, and like I got off stage, grabbed my bag, went to a gym. Like the minute I got off stage, I had like a car waiting for me outside, and went got a pump in, and then like it's just now it's like I'm trying to stay as focused as possible, and it's actually helping me tour. Like we're starting to get to that point where like other things are starting to get more important than like what basically is financially making us live.
Which
you know what I'm
touring.
saying? Like there's families getting involved, and like people are having children, and like everyone's trying to find this other outlet of like, hey, you know what? Touring might need to slow down a little bit. And then you realize that like you're in Every Time I Die, which is like 300 shows a year for the last 18 years. And you're like, well, we can't do that. Like, we're not the type of band to do that. If we're going to scale back, we're scaling back to like 250. And
which is still a lot.
It's insane, man. Like it really is crazy. And like, but that's just the way this band's always worked. And like, it's, like at this point in time, like financially, that's, a lot of what the money we make is from touring.
Right.
So
this is kind of like you don't have kids. You I'm assuming you don't have
exactly.
Okay, so this is your like side project, if you will.
That's exactly how I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Well, it's really cool. I'm pretty fascinated that the inspiration for you was CM Punk quitting and just hanging out with him and stuff, and then like that's kind of what motivated you, because I myself am also trying to get into a bit of shape and like doing weightlifting. I go 3 times a week. And it's definitely like there's like something meditative about it. I always say, where it's just
I'm telling you what, man, when you're around like in the metal, like because this is a metal and wrestling podcast, it's easy because we can cross both sides. We come from such a negative area, and I'm not going to drop some like positivity fucking like secret shit. It's not anything like that, but like coming from a world where like you have bands that say like fuck everything and fuck this, and like there's literally nobody on each other's backs, and they talk about how there's a brotherhood in this shit. Everybody wants to stab everyone in the back, and it's so negative. Everybody talks shit about everybody. Dude, the minute you can step away from it, when you're on tour and you're around the shit constantly, the minute you can step away and take your mind out of that world and put it somewhere else, it's so fucking good. And it is a meditation thing. If you can get to the gym and just work on yourself, it like you come back and it's almost like you have a shield around you from that shit. So like if people are just negative, you're just like, fuck man, like I did the most positive thing I could possibly do for my body. I'm good. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care how many fucking records you've sold. I don't give a fuck how many people are seeing your band play or my band play. I'm gonna fucking rock the kids that are here, and that's what matters.
Agreed.
Like, here and now is what matters. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And it's so nice to like just, and with wrestling, it's like it's so similar to being in a band. Like the venues are the same. The like having to work out is the same. Like going to like eat is the same. Like everything is the same. You can equate everything from like touring in a band to like wrestling now that like I'm on both sides, where it's like,
sure,
I'll talk to dudes I've never met before, and I'm just like, yo, where do you wrestle when you're there? And then they say it, and it's like, holy shit, do you eat at that place around the corner? Like every time, holy cow, you know, like it's so crazy, you know, it's so similar.
Yeah, speaking of the Palladium, like right next door is the DTE Center, and that's where like WWE does house shows. So it's like right there. That's so funny that you said that. And like back to the shit talking, I always say that like your only competition is yourself. Like the only way you can't like compare yourself to others. You only compare yourself to like where your success is and how you could increase that. So I totally agree with that stuff. And so, like, I'm wondering now, like, so if we could just, like, we'll get into some older stuff, but this is just really interesting to me. Like, now that you're, like, kind of, like, watching you're working on your physique, so to speak, like, have you changed up your diet? And like, are you, like, serious about that stuff? And, like, what keeps you going with that? Like, what prevents you from, like, just be like, fuck it, I'm going to eat shitty now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing with that too is like they call them like that, you know, like everybody calls them like cheat days. Dude, I sound like I'm a Tony Robbins type dude right now.
Not at all.
I hate talking like this because I'm not like the type of guy that's like I do believe everybody's body's different. So like if powerlifting is something that works for me, it might not work for you. If you know CrossFit might be something that works for you. CrossFit isn't what works for me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, with like diet, man, I literally cut sugar like completely out, and like I do like it's not basically like I don't count my macros or anything like that, but I stay away from anti-inflammatories, I stay away from inflammatory like foods, like anything that's going to keep my joints inflamed.
Like what? Like what are some examples of
like bread, like stuff like that, like bread. I eat a lot of like if I do eat, like I don't stay away from carbs. Like I'm not one of those people, but like I won't eat like enriched flours and stuff like that.
So like bad carbs, what people call bad carbs.
It'll just stay and just like especially the tour, man. Like once I cut that shit out, like Metallica neck didn't happen. Like the first day, I remember like playing a show and like that first 3 shows of the tour, you're like, oh my god, like you can't move your neck. We call it Metallica neck, but like or like bang over, people call it or whatever. And then it kind of just went away.
Interesting. Like, I noticed that too. Like I did a slow carb diet for a while where I would just not eat carbs 6 days and then one day kind of like go nuts with it. And I would notice when I'd get back on the carbs, like I would feel so much shittier after eating and like so much more full, and you really notice the difference in what it is. But let's get back to wrestling. So my first question, typically, even though we're already 15 minutes in here, is how did you first get into? What are your first memories of wrestling?
My first memories of wrestling. My sister's 6 years older than me, and she had this boyfriend. That's best friend was the captain of the wrestling team, and his name was John Lewis. And like, so like they would come over and hang out, and like obviously John Lewis would be like the third wheel, right? So like my sister and like this dude would go hang, whatever. You know, I'm not judging my sister. She was a wild teenager at the time. God only knows what they were doing. But John Lewis would like sit with me, and he'd be like, "Hey, do you mind if I turn this on?" And I would be like, "Oh no," like, you know. And then he would turn on NWA wrestling. So like a lot of people will go, "Oh, you know, it was Hulk Hogan," or you know, I saw Ultimate Warrior or something like that. Mine was like I remember the very first match I ever saw where me and John Lewis sat down and watched NWA wrestling. It was Midnight Express versus Road Warriors in the match.
Oh wow!
That was the first match I ever watched.
That's crazy.
And dude, it was killer. And I was in. I was like, who the fuck are these dudes? Like, I want everything to do with these two behemoths with face paint on.
And how old were you at the time?
Fuck, man, I was probably, at that time, I think my sister was 17, so I would have been like 12.
Okay.
And, but I'd watched like wrestling before that. I just didn't get it. Like, not saying I didn't get it, but I was like,
it didn't grab you.
Yeah, it didn't grab me like this. Like when I saw the Road Warriors, I mean, it was just boom, hook, line, and sinker. And then I saw the Steiners like right after that, and like the whole dog-faced gremlin like gimmick. Like I had pictures of Rick Steiner on my wall. Like people would come over and be like, "Who is this dude?" And I'm just like, "Fucking no, dog-faced gremlin, Rick Steiner."
This is my hero.
Yeah, and like that John Lewis dude got all the magazines, so like he would read them and then give me stacks. So like I was reading about dudes. Like I remember reading about like before anyone even knew like about like Masawa and fucking Takada and all those dudes, like in like 94, 93. Like I would go to high school and I would bring these, I like after my sister like broke up with that dude, I would still buy the magazines. Like I knew they existed. You know what I mean? From
of course. Yeah.
But I would like look at pictures, and I remember getting in actual fist fights when I was a kid, like 12, 13 years old, about dudes who loved Hogan, and I would be like, no, Ric Flair is the real champion.
And like, that's amazing.
Yeah, like seeing pictures of Ric Flair, and I'm just like, Hogan doesn't wear like rhinestone. Like, look at this guy.
Yeah.
Like that's the real champion. That's what champion looks like.
And also, Hogan couldn't work. Like Flair actually had entertaining matches. Hogan had the same match over and over again.
He would do his 4 moves, and like I just remember just every time I saw pictures. I remember I had to do a paint. I remember like in art class I had to do like they had us do this thing where like you would take a picture and then like paint like over the picture.
Yeah.
And I painted it was Roddy versus Greg Hammer Valentine in the chain match, the dog collar match.
Oh, a classic.
Yeah, and like it's you've probably seen the picture before. It's like Greg Hammer has the chain around his neck, and fucking Roddy's stepping on the back of his neck like around the rope, and he's just bleeding everywhere.
It's a crimson mask.
Yeah, everywhere, man. I mean that match is insane. Still to this day, that match is insane.
Yeah, I agree. I actually just rewatched it because we're getting a friend of mine, my friend Noah, we're getting her into wrestling. She just got into it like around SummerSlam, so we're like giving her like a history lesson and being like, go back and watch these matches. Yeah. And like I watched that match from the first Starrcade. It's on the WWE Network. And it's crazy how like it's 30 years old, but still one of like the most hardcore matches I've ever seen. And like it was real, like scary real.
Yeah, that's like now with me, like training and stuff. Like it's a lot of it. Like it's so weird to me. Like because I'm so much older than all these dudes, and like when I train, like there's like kids are like 22, 23, 24. And then like a 38-year-old guy, you know what I mean?
Right. You look pretty young for 38, though. I gotta say.
Yeah. So like I'll sit there and like there's this one kid named Kevin Locke. The kid's gonna be fucking great. He's so fucking. He just gets it. But he's got long hair and he's got tattoos. He's like obsessed with Stone Cold, and he wants to be like Stone Cold. I'm like, dude, you are Shawn Michaels. Right. And he's just like, I don't want to. I'm like, dude, like be that fucking guy. Like you should. I mean, he was the sickest. He's the best, arguably one of the best wrestlers that ever existed.
I think like the best modern wrestler, the best wrestler of like the 90s and 2000s for sure.
So like I'll tell him, I'm like, dude, watch this match, and like it's so funny because he has like a ton of stunners. He'll do stunners from everywhere, and it's just so funny. Like, and it's like, okay, well, you kind of have to just let him go. And it's weird because you tell these kids, like, yo, watch Bruiser Brody versus Dick Murdoch from like All Japan. Like, that match is insane. And, like, Brody is so over at that time, and Brody hated when dudes would give it back. So he would sit there and pummel. And, dude, if you watch the scene, if anyone's listening to this, watch this match because you'll see the power of Brody at that time where like Murdoch gives it back, Brody doesn't like it, he gets out of the ring, jumps into the crowd, and the crowd parts, he stands on a fucking chair and they're just hussing around him. They're like terrified of him, and then the crowd is chanting huss, and that's how the match ends. There's no winner. He just gets tired of like Murdoch throwing him around, and then he goes in the crowd, and it's so fucking cool. Like, I don't know why I just went on that rant, but yeah. Okay, let's get back to wrestling.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's great. Like for me personally, like growing up in New York, I only really had access to WWF at the time. So that's kind of like what I grew up in. But then I remember I would slowly discover, like through like my video store, I'd get into WCW, and then like there was the WCW Worldwide, which was on like Friday or Saturday mornings at like 1 a.m.
Did you like Worldwide?
I loved Worldwide.
I loved it, dude. I'm so bummed that it's not on the network.
Yeah, I don't think. I feel like it never really will, because it's just like jobber matches. It's so obscure.
But you need those.
Yeah,
that's how you build. That's how you build character. That's how you build like a guy.
Yeah, I feel like NXT is kind of doing that now, where they like put in like a newer guy who hasn't been introduced on TV just to like lose to.
Yeah,
to I
just watched last night's NXT. Like I just finished it as you called.
Oh yeah.
And they did that with No Way Jose last night.
Yeah.
They just had they had that guy going in like. And like I was like backing that dude. I was like, okay, I like this gimmick. Like, he's like dancing and stuff. And then Eli coming out was like, dude, we gotta get into that. Let's just talk NXT for a second.
Let's talk NXT.
I fucking love that they're giving these dudes a shot. I love that EY is getting a shot. I love that Austin Aries is getting a shot. And like, I like the fact that those dudes can kind of swallow a little bit of pride and take that route.
Yeah, I think it's the best route for them, because it allows them to kind of show the upper management, who obviously are not researching. They're not watching TNA every week. They don't know who these people are. It kind of gives them a taste of what they can do, and I think that's the best thing for them. If they just debuted in WWE, it wouldn't be as good.
I can't wait until Bobby Roode was at the next takeover.
Yeah.
Or at the last takeover.
At the Dallas one, yeah.
Yeah, and like I hope that for years I thought that dude was like WWE ready.
Yeah. That's how I felt about Nakamura too, like just watching him. I only really got into New Japan the last 2 or 3 years, and honestly the reason I got into it was because of Nakamura, because I was like, I need to watch more of this guy, and I was always like, man, I can't, like, could you imagine how great he would be in WWE? But I was like, it's never gonna happen. He's not their style. And then like he's here, and I'm so pumped. Like I'm genuinely very, very excited. The most excited I've been in a while.
The big question mark though is like, now you have arguably the biggest Japanese wrestler, right? I mean, maybe not like Tanahashi and Okada are huge.
Well, the most charismatic. Like, we could. Of course. There's no argument there.
But a couple years ago, you took the biggest Japanese wrestler, and he's been hurt. So, like, when Kenta comes back, like, what are they going to do?
Well, I agree. Like, my first thought was, like, I feel bad for Kenta now that Nakamura's in. But I feel like Kenta wasn't as big as Nakamura. Like, Kenta was doing Noah. He wasn't in New Japan. Like, I love Kenta. I love Kenta. And also, Kenta's problem is he's not as, like, outgoing. He's just like a wrestler, like a wrestler's wrestler.
Of course.
But I love him, and I really hope he doesn't get lost in the shuffle too, because I was very excited to see him come over, and I think he is an awesome wrestler. And like, to your point, what you were saying with like Eric Young showing up and whatever, I totally echo those sentiments, because I remember like maybe a decade ago now, a little less than a decade ago, I would go to every Ring of Honor show in the area, and I mean, like, I saw Joe and Aries and all these guys cut their teeth, and it's like surreal to me now, like 10 years later, being like, man, finally Joe's getting a shot. Like, Joe is so
crazy,
awesome,
right?
Yeah, because like Joe Kobashi, I was there live for Joe versus Kobashi in New York, and it was
by the way, I would have cried. Kobashi is my favorite wrestler of all time.
I like, at the time, I'm going to be completely, like, it barely registered. Like, I knew this guy was like a big deal, but I didn't like know who he was. But like, it was the most marked out I've ever been watching wrestling live. And it's like, if you watch the match, there's no high spots, there's no table spots, there's no barbed wire. It's just two dudes punching and chopping each other for 20 minutes, and it's awesome.
It's great. It's amazing. Dude, people think I'm like a sadist, because I'll in like training and stuff like that, like I'll tell dudes, I'm like, dude, chop me, like chop the shit out of me. I don't give a fuck. Like, you need to get better at it, and if you need to get better at it, you have to do it. So just fucking do it. And like, dudes are just like, you want me to sit? I'm like, dude, fucking chop me and just fucking elbow the shit out of me. Like, if that's what you want to do, like, you're gonna go in, you're gonna wrestle a match, and it's gonna look weak as fuck, and dudes are gonna fucking just laugh at you. You know what I mean? Like, if I was in a match and a dude chopped me weak, I would fucking hit them as hard as I could so they would hit me as hard as they could. You know what I mean? Just to like get it out of them. And I tell these dudes like at training, I'm just like, dude, I'm gonna go on tour in like 2 months, and you guys are gonna keep wrestling. So like, just do it now. Give me what I want. You know, like, I want these strong fucking Japanese matches. I need to like brace myself and take this shit. Yeah. So like, just fucking chop me. And like, and then again, like I'll tell them like, dude, watch Kobashi versus Sasaki. And just watch them go toe-to-toe for 2.5 minutes on chops. And, like, it gets to a point where dudes' chests are bleeding. Like, that's what I want. That's what I aspire out of. I want someone to bring that, like, and give me it. You know what I mean?
Those are intense. Those Japanese matches, especially, like, the early 90s, like, Misawa, Kawada. Like, I want, like, those are just, like, almost a little hard to watch because it's just, dude, like, it's not...
Necks.
Their necks are all callous, I feel, because all they do is just drop each other with like tiger suplexes, and like, and they don't tuck their head in; they're landing right on their fucking neck. It's painful to watch. It's a little disturbing, honestly.
Yeah. Yo, do you ever go to CZW matches?
No,
that's kind of close.
I'm not really into like
deathmatch stuff.
Deathmatch, yeah, like that. Like for me, I kind of look at like wrestling is sort of an art form. Like I love strong style, and I understand that's more stiff. But to me, it's like I'm not about like the intentional, like I can't get into a dude like cutting another guy, you know, legitimately, you know, like that.
Yeah.
But which is not to say that's all that CZW is, but I've just never gotten into it. Like sorry, go ahead.
What I was gonna bring up is like the weirdness of like how those dudes will, and I'm sure this probably happened before. You just don't hear about it because you just assume. So they do that like the King of the Death match like every year, or what is it?
Best of the Best or something. Yeah, Cage of Death. Yeah.
And like, they'll do like the plain glass and all that stuff, and like dudes will, and it happens all day, you know, like it's an all day thing.
Yeah.
And you never hear of like arteries getting hit or anything like that. And then like, I don't know if you watch Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
But like that, like Jeff Cobb is that, I guess I can't
Mantaza.
But like, yeah, like Matata Cueto hit the glass and like cut his wrist and like cut an artery.
Yeah, he pulled a Goldberg.
Like this poor guy, like you have these cage death dudes who are like doing all that insane shit. That never happened.
Yeah.
And then this poor guy hits glass and like cuts his wrist in the midst of like his biggest push.
Yeah. And what a great character. Lucha Underground, I feel, are really killing it with their characters. With just like story.
Yeah, I love that story-based thing. I love the fact that they're bringing real actors. Like, they're bringing Lorenzo Lamas is, like, now a character on it.
I saw that, yeah. I just love all the how cinematic it is, how, like, artful, and, like, it's a totally different take on wrestling. Like, my only critique is I feel like sometimes the wrestling almost takes a back seat, because it's just, like...
Of course.
Like, some of the matches aren't exactly, like, I don't want to say 5-star classics, but it's just, like, flippy shit.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind. I like flippy shit. Like, I'll take flippy shit over gore anytime, but...
Of course.
Like a mild... But ultimately, I really enjoy Lucha Underground. There's so much good wrestling right now, I feel. It's almost too hard to keep up with between that. New Japan is killing it. Yeah, Evolve. I'm actually going to an Evolve show this weekend, the one with the two cruiserweight things. And I'm really pumped for that.
Yeah. That's going to be that card is sick. That's going to be sick.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like this underground scene in pro wrestling now of like these guys who are really, really good, and like in 2 or 3 years they're going to be all over WWE and NXT, and like just watching them bloom. Like my favorite wrestler right now in the independent scene is Ricochet, who I feel could be
unreal.
Yeah, he could be a top star in WWE right now, but like beyond him, I feel like guys like Zack Sabre Jr. and Chris Hero, like there's so many great wrestlers on the independent scene that's stronger than ever.
How crazy is it that like, again, dude, another inspiration, like the fact that like Chris Hero is like, okay, you were in NXT, whatever.
Yeah, you got your shot.
Like, instead of like just getting out and getting the paycheck, he gets out of NXT, and right now at, I think he's 34, 35, He's having the best fucking matches of his life.
Yeah.
He is incredible, right? I mean, he's always been incredible, but like right now, Chris Hero is so fucking good. Like, and he can have, dude, I've seen him have, like, him versus Zack Sabre Jr. I've seen him, dude, it's on YouTube right now. Go watch Pentagon Jr. versus Chris Hero, AEW.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was on YouTube. Yeah, I gotta check. Like, Pentagon Jr., that's another guy who's, like, amazing. Like, instantly became one of my favorite wrestlers because he's so fucking charismatic and great.
Dude, he wrestles like New Japan 94.
Yeah. And he can do high spots too. I feel like it's kind of interesting too, like how like modern wrestlers, like everyone has a high spot now. Everyone has like a flip or something where like before guys wouldn't leave the ground.
Yeah. It's funny too because like you'll get guys like all the time. Like you'll hear like this weekend. One of my trainers, Mikey Every Night, he's like a littler dude, and he wrestled this guy named Asylum who's been around in our area for a while. He's done some WWE stuff too, and literally like before the match, like they didn't call anything. Like Asylum just looked at him and was just like, "Hey man, let's go out there and have a good one." Like that was the call, and they just did everything on the wing, and they just won everything, and like it was awesome. Like they had a great match. And like nothing was called. Like they did everything, and then they did it was like old Memphis style. Like there was some comedy, and like a lot. They did a good amount of chain in the beginning, and then it was just a good classic match. There was no like the real big high spot. They ended with a powerbomb, and like that was it. It was super
cool,
good.
Yeah. One of my favorite recent matches that I saw was actually, speaking of Chris Hero, he wrestled Jack Evans, I believe at like Battle of Los Angeles. It was.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, really? Oh, I want to go to PWG so bad. I want to fly out so bad.
Okay, let's just talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So, like, do you remember the first show you ever went to? Like the first band, like live metal, or hardcore, or whatever. Like, remember the feeling you had where it was kind of dangerous, and like you picked up any flyer that was on the ground because you needed to go to it again.
Right.
So I went to DDT. It was the tag team tournament. That was the first PWG I went to.
Okay.
And Team Tremendous wrestled. It was Team Tremendous versus Beaver Boys, the first match. And like the whole match kind of goes, and you're right there. Like you've obviously seen it. So like if they go out, you're getting hit. Like you have to move, right?
Yeah. And there's no barrier separating the crowd from the fan, the wrestlers.
Yeah. And they were like doing some high spots or whatever like that, and like. Bill Carr would get in the ring, and like he never really hit the ropes. He just kind of stayed in the middle, and like he would do that boss man sidewalk slam, and he did a few moves, got out, blah blah blah. Dan Barry goes in, starts doing all this flippy stuff, blah blah, and then everybody's on the outside. Now Big Bill is the only one in the ring. Now Bill is like, if anyone knows who Bill Carr is about 6'6" and probably goes about 3. I hope he doesn't hear this. I would say about 320 to 330. That's safe. Hopefully he's like 350, and I'm giving him some on this one. But he fucking hits the ropes, and when he hit the ropes so hard, it was like I got that feeling of like when I was a kid at that punk rock show where like it felt so unsafe, but I was so into it. Like it was like, and you heard that like clink of the ropes like tightening, and then he flipped over the top rope onto the dudes on the ground, and you could feel the ground shake. And I was like, done. This is it. This is the best wrestling I've ever been to. Like, this is it. I need to go to as many of these as I possibly can. And then when I went to Bola, that was it. It was just like, this is wrestling, like, here.
What's interesting, like, what I can compare it to is, like, I was a little too young to go to the ECW arena when it was around, but I did go to like one or two. I think I went to 2 ECW shows in Queens when they did it at the Elks Lodge, and that was like I felt like, oh, I'm home.
Right. That's like what a feeling.
Yeah, like everyone here likes wrestling just as much as because also back then in the mid to late 90s, right before the Attitude Era, like wrestling wasn't really cool. You couldn't really tell everybody. You like it was a little looked down upon. So it was like
no one is back in Skinner.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, exactly. Or T.L. Hopper.
Yeah, you're not watching WWE for like Skinner.
Yeah.
And like now I will. I will watch every Skinner match, but it's like remarking because it was so mediocre. Like at that time, like televised wrestling was just so mediocre, and WCW was great. Like
agreed.
They were doing really cool stuff at that time because they were just giving guys chances that normally wouldn't give chances.
Yeah.
But once you see ECW and like it was almost like I honestly like talking to dudes that wrestled at that time, like Dreamer and dudes like that, like you hear how like Heyman just had that Kool-Aid that everybody was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And like he would make you, I mean, like the way those dudes talk, it's just like, it's almost like those pep talks that he would give before. It was like, he put the brand on every dude's shoulders and said like, this is yours. So go out there and like go, you know, like do it. That is just empowering in itself. And then on top of it, he had the fans think that too. So if you went to an ECW card, you were like, these are my wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and you'd be sad when they leave. Yeah, like you'd be like bitter when like Raven signs for WC. Or I was so bummed because I was like, man, Raven's the fucking best. I don't want to leave.
But then you were like hyped on that though. Like you were stoked that like your guy was there, right? And then you thought about the matches that could happen. You know what I mean? Like at that time, you know, the one guy like I loved, Shane Douglas was like it for me. Like I loved him at that time, like ECW era
franchise. Shane Douglas,
he was so sick. Like, and it just his matches, everything, he just had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like to fucking go to WWE and get the fucking Dean gimmick.
Oh man, that was brutal.
It was like I got kicked in the fucking balls. Like that was it.
Yeah.
And then when he came back, Candido's like up there. He's in my top 5. So like when he came back and started
Triple Threat, yeah,
like with Bam Bam, I was like, oh my god,
that was
this
awesome.
guy couldn't have gotten a cooler crew.
Yeah, Bam Bam was great too. Yeah, very underrated wrestler.
Super underrated.
Yeah, my favorite there though was Sabu. I remember the first time I saw Sabu, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Where did he come from? Like. Yeah. One of the most underrated performers I feel of all. Like I feel so bad for him because he like destroyed his body for like no money. You know, like he never cashed in. Like he had that brief run in WWE when they relaunched ECW, but that dude is a legend. Like fucking
such a legend, still a legend.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever interviewed Jake from Converge?
No, I have not.
Dude, if you should try to get him on the wrestling podcast.
Oh, I would love to.
Dude, he's seen some shit. He was at they used to do that fucking venue in Lowell. ECW used to go to Lowell and do something. Right, was it Lowell? There was definitely something they would do in Massachusetts. I want to say it was like the Lowell Convention Center or something like that. And
sounds about right.
Yeah, and there was he was at this show, and I'm sure you've probably heard about this. Like so like Jake told me a story, and he said that it was him versus Dreamer, Sabu versus Dreamer, at this convention center, and they were doing that spot where Dreamer's on the table, Sabu goes up, does the moonsault through the table. So like they were on the outside, he climbed up like a folded bleacher, you know, like when bleachers are like folded up, that like wall of wood, and was gonna moonsault off that through the table.
Yeah, he's insane.
So, yeah, insane, right? So, like, Dreamer's on the table, Sabu's climbing up, he gets to the top, he goes to moonsault, Dreamer gets up. Well, when he gets up, the fucking table flips over, and the fucking pegs are up.
Oh, shit.
So, Sabu goes through with it, obviously he's in the air. Dreamer can't move the table in time, and then the table leg goes through his jaw. So it goes through the bottom and out his cheek.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and Jake said the crowd went dead silent. like dead silent. Fucking Sabu pulls the fucking leg off of his face, runs to the back.
Get some tape.
Yeah, and like Dreamer's out there, and like he's obviously probably he knows that Sabu's probably gonna come back, and then Sabu comes back and he's got the fucking duct tape like hanging off his fucking head.
Yeah.
And then they like finish the match or whatever. Like,
wow.
And,
yeah.
Broke his jaw or whatever happened, but it went through him. I
never heard that, but I absolutely believe it. Just watching the barbed wire match he had with Terry Funk, how he just started taping himself up.
Yo, do you remember seeing him throw up ever?
In ECW, right? Like I don't remember the match, but yeah, like
he takes the guardrail. Oh fuck! It was like lethal oh my god! What? Barely legal. It was barely legal. Yeah. He took the ribs, or he took the guardrail to the ribs, got in, hit the ropes, slid, and threw up. And it was, I want to say it was against Van Dam.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It wasn't it was like a ECW, like a house, not a house show, but like one of their big events at the arena. Yeah, I do remember now.
Crazy.
Yeah, that was wild.
That shit was like so real. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like, and that was their thing. Like, we have to make it look as real as possible, just because it's like we're not. It was very anti, like the not like the non-edgy image WWF was doing. But like just going back a few minutes, we were talking about like that first show. Like even the beyond the ECW shows, once ECW folded, like Ring of Honor started, and I feel like that's when I was like of the age where I like really got wrestling, as opposed to or was like a super fan, not just like watching it and into the spectacle.
What time period was that?
This was like 2003, 2004.
Okay,
like this was
so you're talking like Hero. Like Hero was there, Colt Cabana was there.
No, like I was there. I was there for CM Punk's first show with Colt, like when CM Punk and Colt Cabana first came in, and that was my first show. It was Ring of Honor Unscripted. It was at the Murphy Rec Center, which is just a fucking tiny ass gym with no air conditioning. It's like that's kind of why I'm so jealous of PWG, because that Reseda Hall, wherever they have the shows, just looks like the Murphy Rec Center to me. And I'm like, I totally know the vibe. I totally know the feeling. And it was my favorite thing to just be in there with like the most hardcore wrestling fans who like, I was always growing up the biggest wrestling fan I knew. Like all my other friends weren't into it as much as me, but like going somewhere where I'm like the least biggest wrestling fan. Like these guys were into every Japanese, like they knew everything. Anyway, so the show Ring of Honor Unscripted, first show, the opening like promo was Paul London, who totally underrated guy, insane guy, and like him and Michael Shane were gonna have. Michael Shane is the cousin of Shawn Michaels. We're gonna have a street fight, the first street fight in Ring of Honor ever. This was their like third show, and I didn't know who these two guys were, and by the end of the match, like Michael Shea was okay, but like Paul London became my favorite wrestler because he was
insane.
He did some of the craziest like flips and stunts, and like so they were working with like the psychology of the matches that they brought out they were like trying to kill each other. They hate each other, and so they brought out a ladder. And they kept doing spots on this ladder where, like, using the ladder as a weapon, where they'd be hitting each other with the ladder, and then somebody placed the ladder like up against the corner, and they would like backflip, like throw someone over their back, so they land back first on the ladder, like bending the ladder and shit. So this ladder is like fucking beat up as all hell, and I like just. Like talking about it now, I'm getting like so hyped up about how into this match I was, because then like 20 minutes into these matches, these guys are fucking dead, and like Paul London never gives up. He's like super like Ricky Steamboat baby face of like always persisting, and like so he like opens the ladder up and like places it, and he starts climbing this ladder. This ladder looks like it's about to collapse, and and like everyone in the crowd, like. Philly wrestling fans are the fucking most diehard. Like they want to see blood, they want to see death. But like everyone in this crowd was like, "Oh my God, what is he doing?" And this was the birth of the "Please don't die" chant, which is like of all places for Philadelphia to show that kind of empathy, like, man, you're killing yourself, you're gonna kill, like don't do this. And it was like so, like, I remember the whole car ride back home, me and my friend, it was like a 2-hour ride. All we kept talking about was like, man, like, these guys are probably making like $25 and they just had the greatest match I've ever seen. Like, they need to be in WWE. And like, that feeling, I feel, is like when wrestling is at its best.
Yeah, you know what? It's cool too. Do you remember your first wrestling friend? Like, there's friends, and then you have your wrestling friend.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I don't know if you've had rebirths of wrestling friends too. So like, you have your very first wrestling friend, and then like you go on or whatever, right? So like currently, Dick Justice, Super Cop Dick Justice, is from Rochester, and like I ride with him all the time. Like, I'll just go to shows. Like, right now I'm injured, so like I'm fucking out. So like I can't. I have a torn meniscus in my knee, so like I have to I just can't wrestle. So I'll just go on trips with him, and like I have my like rebirth wrestling friend where like we will fucking be on a ride for like 4 hours just talking about like the dumbest shit. You know what I mean? Like the fact that like we saw two local indie guys wrestle a match that should have been on like WrestleMania, and like just tripping out that like him and I were the only two guys that were like freaking out, you know, like about that shit. And it's like, it's so nice to like have that keep going. And like right now, like, you know, out of our gym, like Pepper Parks just got signed to Impact. So like now he's just completely inspired again. And it's like so fucking amazing to see this guy he's been wrestling for fucking 18 years, 17 years. And like, you know, he's got this like rebirth in him, and like he comes to fucking training, and it's just like he's got these ideas, and it's so fucking awesome to be like, you know what I mean? It's like, see a guy just have fire, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so fucking cool to like, because there's no way he should, like, dude, I'm in Every Time I Die, and like there's times where like I'll see a flyer for a show we're playing, and it's like fucking like 3 bands that like I don't like, and like I'm just like, oh god, man, like just get me on stage, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be around these people, I don't want to be here, I just want to play, because that's like I'll feel alive, you know what I mean? To see like I know that feeling though, you know what I mean? When I see a flyer and there's like 4 bands I fucking love, I'm like, oh, this show's fucking sick, like I can't wait to watch these bands. Oh man, you know, like the hang is gonna be insane, like you know.
Yeah.
And like to see like an older dude, like an older wrestler, like still have that excitement about it, it's so cool, man. And it just makes me, and I'm so bummed, dude. Like I go to train and I can't get in the ring, so like I'm just there rehabbing. I like rehab my knee just so I'm around it. And like I'm just fucking watching these dudes, and like you know, it's cool because it helps with my psychology of it. So like I can see how they're like plotting stuff and like working on matches and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, man, just let me in there and like
just want to. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's so cool because I'm inspired on something else. It's just, I'll tell you, man, like it's so nice to have that wrestling friend, and like the 2, you know, the 3 dudes that I like train with. Are like, they're so hyped on wrestling.
That's great.
It's so nice, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like I just like I said, I got my friend Noah and like a few other friends, and like we've started getting together for the big pay-per-views, and it's so much more fun to watch wrestling in a group than like watch it alone, which I was used to doing for the longest time.
Because you're gonna have that shit talk. You know, you're gonna have people that like. Have you ever? You should have that Aubrey Sitterson dude on.
Oh yeah, I'm friends with Aubrey. I definitely want to get him on the show. Yeah,
he's the best. And Aubrey is like, he is the most. He watches wrestling in the most uncolored way. He is like so
positive. Yeah, I agree.
And like he sees the positive in dudes. When I'm just looking at a guy and I'm just like, how is this guy getting a shot?
Yeah.
And like, and then obviously, I don't know, man, I like him. I like this guy, you know, and you're just like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, he's the only one defending Sheamus.
But that's so that is so Aubrey. But yeah, like stuff like that, like,
yeah.
and it's so cool to have a group of guys to watch it in that type of capacity, where there's like guys who like watch it, and like you've seen ECW stuff, so like watching a guy go through a table in like kind of a, you know, he's just doing like a front bump like into a table, and you're like, oh, okay. Or like, you know, your friend who like just started watching, it's like, oh my god, he just went through a table, and you're like, yeah, and it's kind of, it's refreshing to watch in a group of guys, like,
right,
where they're not, you know,
where they're not just jaded like online wrestling fans who just read all the dirt sheets and whatever. Like that's what I like about with my friends. Like they very passively follow the backstage stuff, and they're just into the kayfabe and like rooting for the faces, and it is very refreshing to do that. And I actually wanted to talk about your training a little bit, because you had you had your first match earlier this year.
Oh yeah, I kind of got a bone to pick with you.
Oh really?
I forgot about this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, well, at first it was Ryan Satin. So like Ryan hit me up. He goes, "Hey, I want to cover your match, blah blah." Like, you know, I'm gonna hit up Smash and have them send me like a highlight reel.
Right. Smash Wrestling is where you debut.
Yeah, Smash Wrestling in Toronto. Like that's kind of, I guess, my like home promotion, I guess. So, so yeah, Ryan's like, "Oh, how'd the match go?" I was like, "Oh, everything was great until I like, you know, I tore my meniscus like in the match or whatever like that." And he goes, "Oh fuck, man, you got injured." And I was like, yeah, I got injured, but like the match was sick, like it was great." And then he covers it, but it's the first thing and the only thing you see is Andy Williams hurts knee during wrestling match. And then I was like, boom, and then you guys covered it the same exact way, and I was like, how is this the fucking, I don't want the fucking knee injury to be like the fucking
story.
knee fucking spot. And now it makes me look like a pussy. Like, you know, if you didn't watch the match, or if no one watched the like highlight thing, like I still worked 5 more minutes with a fucking torn meniscus. I did a black hole slam with my knee not moving. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. So I was like, God damn it. Like now there's this black cloud over this whole thing. And like, I was so bummed at that. I was like, man, these guys are covering it, but they're only covering the knee injury. They're not covering the fact that like the match was actually good. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to watch the match. They're just going to wait until the point where I hurt myself. And then, like, and it wasn't like I hurt myself and then like I had to get like carted out or anything like that.
Yeah, you made it through.
Yeah. Like through the match, I like made it through, and it was like, dude, I'm telling you right now. So I'm on the, you know, that's like my, and I did like the Pythons. Like we had 2 matches as a tag team or whatever, but like you're kind of on. You have someone to hide behind, technically. It's kind of like a guitar on stage. Like, I'm not a singer. I'm never going to be a singer. I have a guitar in front of me, so, like, it's a different thing. Like, you're a showman with something that you can hide behind. So, like, there's flash in your hands. There's not flash in, like, your whole body. You don't have to, like, make the crowd... You don't have to, like, really take the crowd in. You know what I mean? As a guitar player. Where, like, a singer has all that on their fucking shoulders.
Like, a bit of a crutch.
So now it's like when you're in a solo match or a singles match, you have to play all the facets of what this is. So, like, you have to entertain. You have to be a badass. You have to, like, kick ass. At the same time, you have to, like, remember to, like, make it look like you're getting destroyed. But then at the same time, you have to make yourself look strong, and like, you know, there's just all these things that have to kind of go through your head, and I'm sitting there in kayfabe. I'm sitting back there, and like Tarek's like we're going through the match, and like, he's like, dude, you look real nervous. I'm like, dude, I'm so nervous. Like I hurt my knee 3 weeks before, so like
you're already going in with a busted knee, so it's already
and like I hit him up and I said, hey man, check this out, like. These movements are what makes my knee lock up. So, like, if we can stay away from these movements, totally fine. And he worked a match out that was, like, insane. The guy he's a genius. I want everything good to happen to Tarek. He's so good. So, he just worked this match out. It was sick. It was, like, you know, brawling on the outside. And and whatever. And there was a backstory of me and him hating each other anyways, and yeah, it was whatever. So like getting to it, all like Jesse or Pepper Parks and all those dudes that I train with, they're like, dude, like once you get out there, like it is only you and him. You won't even notice the crowd's even there. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. And I've been in that like situation where like every time I die, you just kind of get in that like mind frame, and then like you don't even know there's a crowd there. You're just riffing, you know. And it was the same thing, man. Like I was trembling, waiting in the ring, waiting for like his music hit, and I'm like, oh my god, here it comes. I'm gonna fuck everything up. I'm gonna fucking break my neck, you know. So I'm gonna shit my pants, you know. I'm gonna pee. Like everything is like going through your head, and then like he stepped in the ring, and then boom, like everything went away, and then
That's
it was
awesome.
just like boom, you're just in like this. Again, man, here I go with this like new age shit, but like this like Zen feeling of like it's just him and I.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Is it?
It was wild.
How would you compare it? Because you know you're one of the very few wrestler rock stars, you and Chris Jericho. How would you compare it to playing a rock, like playing a show with Every Time I Die? Is there a comparison there, or
no?
Not really?
I mean, yeah and no. Like Every Time I Die is a very like I guess it's a little more visceral. It's a more of a feeling where there's not like a science to it. I guess there is kind of a science to it, but there's not like a conscious science. It's not like you have to like write these things down and say like, okay, you know, like these are the things we need to do on stage to like get the crowd over.
Right.
You know, it's just something we've just always done. There's never talk. It's not like, hey Jordan, like you need to throw up, or like, you know, like stuff like that. Like, you just kind of like get out there and like. I think that the warm up is exactly the same. Like getting yourself hyped up to play in front of a crowd and like just get yourself kind of in that like it's almost like an energy drink, but like not an energy. You know what I mean? Like you're like getting yourself to that hyped point of like, here we go. You know what I mean? And then like you step out on stage, like the crowd pops the exact same way, and then like, you know. There's songs that you have to think about, and then there's songs like a Bolorama where it's like you've been doing it for so long that it's like second nature. Like I can play that song in my sleep, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But wrestling, you're constantly thinking. Like, you know, it's just think, and then like you kind of have to have like three brains. You have to have an entertainment brain, you have to have a safe brain, and then you have to have like a get yourself over, you know, brain where it's like.
Yeah.
You have to play the crowd at the same time, like entertainment or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's so wild, man. Like,
yeah, I didn't even think about that. There's so much to think about while you're in the ring, beyond just like hitting your move. It's like, how are you looking? Like, are you exuding the confidence that you need to provide? I can't even imagine. Like, I did 1 day of wrestling training like 10 years ago. And first of all, like all I did, I remember it so vividly because I was like, I'm going to do this. There was like there was like a wrestling gym that also did shows out of the gym in Queens. It was called the Dog House. And actually Homicide trained there. He was like the main trainer. Him and Loki, like that's kind of the place that they came out of. And Loki was already like kind of established on the indies. And Homicide as well, but like the guy there, you know, the foreman of the gym or whatever, he wasn't going anywhere. Anyway, so like he was like, yeah, you can come in and do some training for a day, and I paid the fee and whatever. And you know, I'm totally out of shape at this point, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it. Like I want to do this. This is so fun. And I believe this was like right after Tough Enough. Premiered, so I kind of saw that, and I was like I kind of knew what I was getting into, but not really. And I just remember the first bump that I took, where they're like, you know, fall flat on your back, like and you know, lift your head up, and I remember it hurt so much, like the pain that I felt was like I ran full speed ahead into a truck. Yeah, like, and it wasn't like I didn't even hit my head or anything, just my back.
Yeah.
And then they made me do like 10 more of those. Then I remember it was like doing the rolls, just doing the somersaults across the ring, and then having to stand up again. And I remember when they were showing me how to do it, I was like, "There's no way I could do this. There's no way I could somersault and then stand up." The what?
Did you get the spins? Do you remember getting the spins?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I was like, I have never been more sore than the day after I did. I remember I had to take the train home, like public transportation, the subway. I couldn't even, like, it took me forever to climb up the stairs to get to the train because it was so eye-opening. It made me gain so much respect, and it made me realize, like, I do not have the willpower for this.
Yeah. That's the thing, like a big thing, man, like where like our trainers will do like open tryouts and shit like that for the gym. Like dudes want to come in and do stuff. And, you know, like they come in, they're like, and the very first thing out of their mouth is like, hey, check it out. Like some of you guys are wrestling fans and some of you guys are students. And like, that's like the biggest thing where it's like, if you're a student, you'll get through that shit and you just want to learn. And then there's like fans who are like, they just want to be John Cena, and they go in there and they expect you to call like a match the first day you're there.
Right.
And they don't realize that like these dudes are literally going to see what kind of heart you have, you know, and they're going to try to break you. And like the guy that comes to the second like thing, like you kind of see heart in that guy. And then the guy that's in the third, you're like, okay, this is a lifer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I absolutely know what you mean.
Fuck down, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking wild.
It's so much harder than it looks. You know, like people, you know, the whole misconception, oh, it's fake, whatever. It's like, it's not fake, it's choreographed, but you're fucking hurting yourself. It hurts.
You know that guy, Brendan Schaub, the UFC fighter? Mm-hmm. But he was in the UFC. He's got a podcast called Fighter and the Kid. And it's him and this comedian named Brian Callen. It's a great podcast. The podcast is awesome. And Brendan Schaub always fucks with people when they say they're pro wrestling fans. And because he fought in the UFC, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go fake fight, blah, blah. And, like, dudes like that, I'm always like, hey, just, like, go to the first day of training.
Yeah.
And just see how your body feels.
Right.
And, like, you know, like, going through the rolls, like, doing all that shit, like, it's probably similar to MMA training, but, like, you're not back bumping over and over again, and like your body, I know this is like a different kind of trauma, and I'm not saying that MMA training is like, I want those dudes to feel the comparison and go like, oh, okay, I think I can get a little respect out of this.
Yeah.
My body feels the exact same way after I'm done doing like MMA training. Obviously, like MMA is like extremely more dangerous than pro wrestling is. You're getting punched and kicked and, you know, fucking slammed and all that shit.
Yeah.
But like, I think that those dudes would get a respect for it if they like went and did actual training and like tried to actually plan a match out, like, and did it that way. Like, it's wild. Then get graded after. Like, that's basically what you have to do, is like you get graded. I remember because like in training, like once you get to a certain point, you'll go a day where like a bunch of dudes come, like a bunch of guys will come, and like you kind of warm up, and then like head trainer will like call a match or like a card. He'll be like, hey, you're going against this guy, you're going against this guy, and then he'll say like, hey Andy, like you're winning clean, you know. And this one day I got matched up with this kid that was like 6'6" and probably like 320. I mean, it was huge, like just a kind of like a boss man like type figure. And I'm like, great, this is gonna be awesome. I can do fucking Hogan Andre, you know, like we get 8 minutes. It was like 6 to 8 or something like that. And I'm like, I can do Hogan Andre. Like, this is like the perfect match for it, you know, like two immovable forces, you know, like here we go. And then like the big, you know, he just keeps bumping me over and over again, and then the big thing is me slamming him, bam, you know, and then go for the pin. The first thing out of the kid's mouth is like, hey man, I don't really want to take a bump, and like I don't feel really confident like slamming you. And I was like, well, what are we gonna do then? like what is this match gonna be? Like whatever. And like he starts saying the shit. He's like, I'll go to the top rope, I'll do this, blah blah blah, I'll do this, I'm gonna hit the ropes, I'll do this, blah blah blah. And I'm just like, dude, you're 6'6", you're the biggest guy here. You're not doing any of that. That is insane. Like what you're talking about, like psychology-wise, it doesn't work. Like, I'm like, we need to just, I'm a power guy, you're a power guy, and like, blah, blah, blah. And like, we called this like super simple match. I'm like, now we have to finish. And I'm like, just bump me somehow, and then I'll like roll you up. You know what I mean? Like something like that. And he goes, oh, that's great. And I'm just like, we're going to get yelled at. And he's like, why are we going to get yelled at? I'm like, because you're not slamming me and I'm not slamming you. There's no moves. Like, we're basically just working an old Memphis match. And like, there's nothing to it. There's not even comedy to it. Like, I'm big and you're big. And
it's just boring. Happening. Yeah.
It sucks, And like, we're not even chopping each other. Like, nothing is happening. Like, this dude doesn't want to do anything. So I'm just like, okay. So we do it, and he goes, no, we're not going to yell at it. I swear to God, it'll look good. I'm just like, all right, man, whatever. So sure enough, like, we do this thing. He double axe handle me. I face bump. He goes to the crowd and starts playing the crowd. I Cena up, get behind him, fucking roll him up, pin him, blah, blah, go out of the ring. And like, I powder like right away, and then like immediately everybody's just like, boo, that match sucked. Like, why didn't you fucking slam him? We were all fucking sitting here waiting for you to slam him. And I go, I don't know, man. Tell him, why didn't I slam you? I didn't want to get pumped. I was like, come on, man. And then sure enough, like, the fucking trainers are just like, why a roll up? Why a roll up? And I'm just like, talk to him, man. That's what I kind of, that's how we had to finish the match. He didn't want to do anything. And I told him, I was like, dude, just fucking throw. I don't give a fuck. Slam the shit out of him.
Yeah, you need a good dance partner to have a good match.
Yeah, that's 100% like the thing. And like, the thing is though, man, is like, you have to do that though. Like, if you want to, like, anyone if you're listening to this podcast and you're like thinking about getting into wrestling, go and train with as many body types as possible. And you have to like learn how to do it with everybody. If there's a fucking little guy, make that little guy look like the most athletic guy in the fucking earth.
Yeah, because it'll only make you look better.
Exactly.
To have a good match.
That's exactly it. And you should want to work with everybody. You should want to work with every single type of body type, and you'll learn just way more. It's just like a psychology thing. It's just the way it is,
Yeah.
But like it's like anything. Like, with guitar playing, you want to play with as many different guitars as possible. Because you're gonna find the one day that's gonna, like, you're gonna get it, and then you're gonna know what kind of body type you want to work with in the ring. Where it's like, oh, I know I'm gonna have a good match tonight because this guy's like, on that level of like, we're like, our heads are in the exact same spot.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking for over an hour now. I feel like
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Every time you and I have ever done an interview, I could talk. I mean, that's the thing, man. It's so refreshing to find. And I'm not saying that like every time I die is like my biggest passion I have, but it's nice to find a passion, that I was always passionate about, and just find a little heart in something else.
It's awesome. I'm like so happy for you that you're like doing this and you're really into it. And I fully understand that it's not easy to do, to put yourself out there, especially have a match and do all that stuff. And I want to note that I looked it up, and my headline was, every time I dies, Andy Williams loses his pro wrestling debut match.
Okay.
I made no mention.
I don't remember. No, it's Metal Sucks.
Okay,
Metal Sucks did. I think Metal Sucks did. I'm sorry.
I believe that, and okay. I would gladly pass along the shit that you give them.
Okay, good. You should do that. I think it was Metal Sucks that I think they just took the Ryan Satin headline and just ran with that.
But I love all the power moves that you did. I watched some of the clips of just like the choke slam on the apron and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Like, you have a great look for wrestling, and I truly hope you have a career path similar to that of Diamond Dallas Page, who started late.
Me too, man. He didn't win a title until he was 39.
Yeah, so you still got some time.
Yeah, and that was something, like, it's funny too, because a lot of people hit me up. They're like, "Are you really gonna wrestle in like pants in a shirt?" And I was like, "No, man. It was supposed to be like a street fight. I had to fight him." And all I was thinking about was like Bunkhouse Buck, and like dudes like that.
Yeah.
When, like, remember when like Malone came out, like Karl Malone came out, he was like in fucking like
jeans,
black pants, and like he had his fist taped up. Like, that's what I was thinking of. Like, these dudes like smash and build it up. Like, here's this guitar player from this band that's wrestling now, and I was like, I'm totally gonna do an homage of like all the fucking weirdos that like got into wrestling for like one match or whatever.
Yeah. So
like,
so do you have tights or do you have?
I'm gonna do like trunks and I'm gonna do trunks and I like Roderick Strong's boots, the little boots.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do little boots, which they get shit every single time, like Roddy wrestles, like tiny boots.
Yeah. So when you say trunks, do you mean like brief cut or shorts cut? Yeah. Oh, you're going for it.
Cut. I'm gonna go brief cut. Yeah,
nice.
Of course, man. You got to.
Yeah, the traditional look.
Yeah, knee braces, and then like not knee braces. So I'm gonna wear knee pads. And then the tiny boots with like white socks like pulled up with black stripes. Make it look real, kind of old school.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. I'm real excited about it.
I'm really excited as well, and I'm also excited that we spent an hour and barely talked about your band every time I died.
Hey, but that's what it's about. Who cares?
Yeah.
We just recorded a new record. If that's what you want to get at. We just recorded a new record with Will Putney. It's gonna come out this year. There he is. He's growling. Yeah, it's coming out this year. Okay, guys. We got Warped Tour coming up.
Oh, so you're going to be busy all summer. Is there going to be any wrestling? Is there going to be any wrestling on Warped Tour? Are they going to have any luchas that you can do?
Dude, I'm fucking bummed. Dude, there usually is because I did that stuff, and that ISW is what I did. We wrestled as Pythons for them, and now it's not. They're not doing it this year.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
You guys should. I feel like there's really something in like a rock and wrestling tour, like I mean, I guess I'm seeing it all over now. Like NXT is playing like Download Festival, and they're doing festivals, and there's like other promotions at like the big destination festivals. I think it makes sense. It's really cool.
Yeah, like Download Festival last year did the Progress stuff, which was insane. Like the matches that happened at that thing were Progress is so underrated. And I'm glad that they're getting that global cruiserweight thing because it's such a fucking good promotion and like real dudes come out of that place.
Yeah.
Tommy End, Zack Sabre Jr., Marty Scurll, fucking Mark Andrews. Like that place, like England, I think right now, like England is Japan in the 90s, like for wrestlers now.
Right. And also, and what I love too is that like they're all kind of like smaller guys. You know, they're all like 200-pounders, but they're fucking in the main events. Like size is no longer an issue, which I think was stupid to begin with. Yeah.
Dude, like I said, Japanese, it's Japan in the 90s. Like none of those dudes were fucking overly big. And then the white dudes that came from the States were the big guys.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just really good, man. And this year, Download's doing WWE. So, I mean, what a step. I mean, not saying like Progress, but now I guess WWE's helping Progress with the cruiserweight, that global cruiserweight thing. They're taking some of the wrestlers. So.
Right, yeah, it's like a farm system almost now.
Yeah,
for WWE.
It's cool, man.
Awesome.
Like, I just, you know, a lot of people dog the WWE, but like, I mean, right now they're helping so many people.
Yeah, they're keeping so many places in business, and they're helping the whole wrestling scene, which I think is so huge. And I really feel like right now is like the best time it's been for wrestling since 2001 when like WCW and ECW folded.
Yeah. Well, hey, check it. I got your number. You text me and let me know how that
Evolve show is. I will definitely tell you how.
Because what is it? That's the Hot Sauce. Hot Sauce is going against Tracy Williams is going against who is he wrestling? Is he wrestling Zack Sabre? Get that?
Hold on, I have the card. It's definitely, I know TJ Perkins is a TJP. He's in like one of the qualifiers for the tournament. And then Zack Sabre's also there. Scurll is there, I believe. Oh no, Zack Sabre's facing Marty Scurll. That's what it is.
Man, you are a lucky man.
Tracy's facing Drew Gulak. That's the other...
those dudes are. It's going to
be fun.
You're lucky right now. I'm going to House of Hardcore. That day in Toronto.
That should be fun. Yeah, that should be fun as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy how those are like the ECW legends on top, but then they have like really good indie guys in the mid card. So I'm all about that.
Awesome.
Andy, thank you so much for hanging out on the Squared Circle Pit. This is officially the longest interview and also the most in depth. Typically, like the other guy, this is only like episode 5, and I've had like Jamie from Hatebreed, Mike from Killswitch, and they only really follow WWE and NXT. So it's been awesome to like really dive deep into the underground of pro wrestling.
Anytime you want to do it, I'm game. I'll do it anytime you need a guest.
We will. I definitely want to have you back on. Maybe like in the future we could do like pay-per-view recaps or something like that, where we could have you, maybe some other guy. Yeah, that'd be really fun. Alive. Awesome, man. Andy, thank you so much. Yeah. We definitely got to catch a wrestling show one of these days together.
Please, dude. Because sometimes I'll go to CZW with one of my trainer, Pepper. He always wrestles for CZW. Mm-hmm. And usually, like, if he does it, he'll do matches in that area. Like, he usually, what is it? What's the one that Sam Roberts always commentates?
Oh, Pro Wrestling Syndicate, I believe.
Or yeah, I think he's wrestled for that a few times, too.
Dude, let me know. Let me know when you're in the area, when you're coming downstate, and I'll come out to a CZW show.
Yeah, dude, it's cool.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, definitely. Cool, man. Yeah. Well, thanks again.
Anytime, man.